Hello, Pod Smashers of the Internet, and welcome to a very special episode of
80-Bit Podsmash,
where gaming goes to grab a beer. We are your...
That was a very delicate and gentle
It kind of
Let's
was.
do it again.
Ooh, now I spilled a little bit.
Oh, you spilled, and it still wasn't a good thing,
All
so
right,
we're just going to deal with what we
and-
got.
We are where gaming goes to grab a beer.
We're your hosts, Penguin and Termite. I'm Penguin.
I'm Termite, and we are a weekly video game podcast smashing together ideas that you care about with video games.
Yeah.
And the reason why we said it was a very special episode tonight is
Because stuff's happening.
some crazy stuff
We've
is
actually
happening.
moved some things around, so the episode that will air next Monday is, we actually recorded it well before this episode because we thought it was going to be the episode that aired this Monday, but because of the stuff that's going on, we said, you know what, we just need to dedicate an entire episode to what we need to talk about in the gaming industry about stuff that's happened today, and so that's what we're gonna do. So we moved some episodes around, so some of our
we want to stay
references, some of our references in the next episode may seem like they're a little bit dated, but not that dated because it's still a timeless topic, but
It is.
It may seem like if it seems like it was recorded after this one, it was recorded after this one, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yep.
But yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on, so we're gonna get to that as our main topic today. So before then, though, we are where gaming goes to grab a beer. And so we are drinking. I did.
Has brought a beer.
I did. I
Ladies
bring
and gentlemen.
beers sometimes.
I know.
So this is a scary good pumpkin ale from a brewery called Two Roads, which I'm not quite sure where they are. I should have researched that before I came because that wasn't on the packaging. But it is from Two Roads, and the beer is called Rosemary's Baby.
It says it on the can. They are from Stratford, Connecticut.
Okay. Well, research or just using my eyes. Rosemary's Baby is the name of the beer. It is
And
a
they're
pumpkin ale aged in rum barrels with vanilla beans.
And it is absolutely delicious.
It's great. I really like it a lot. It's sweet. It's very sweet. So if you are
but not in a bad way.
Yeah, not in a bad. Well, but
there are cheap pumpkin ales that are just
Yeah.
sweet and like the pumpkin spice to appeal to the people who love pumpkin spice. It's like, oh, we have a pumpkin spice beer. That's not what this is.
No, this is sweet because I think it's the rum
It's
and
the
vanilla
rum,
beans. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just like pumpkin is already a sweet flavor. Rum is a sweet flavor, and vanilla beans, so it's like it's sweet because of course it's sweet. It's got those good sugars in it, so you definitely get like
You got that good.
Yeah, it's like an initial blast of sweet, and then you get the kick afterwards. I think is what I'm feeling about it. So I like it a lot.
I just noticed on the side of the can, written in cursive, their brewery name is Two Roads, right? And I think it's what their little tagline is. Here's to taking the road less traveled in life and in beer.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool.
I like it. Yeah, I was instructed by my wife to purchase some beer on Sunday when we were going to go hang out with some friends, and
Your wife had to tell you to buy it.
yeah, well, it's more like oh my goodness, I'm going to take advantage of this because normally if I buy beer, it's like
Comes out of your funds.
it comes out of my funds. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was like,
Nice.
oh hey, we get to use joint funds for this beer. So I agonized. I knew I wanted a pumpkin beer, but I agonized for longer than I'd like to admit because I just happened to be by Total Wine. So I was like, I'm going to hop into Total Wine and get something good.
Yeah.
And I agonized for a long time over what beer I wanted to get. And I landed on this one, and I was pleased that I did. But the ones I wanted were all like $16-17 for just 4. And I was like, so I got a 6-pack of this for less than that.
All right.
So it's good. Yeah. So if you are looking for a good pumpkin ale,
This is a good one.
fall, this
I
is a
like
good
it,
one.
yeah.
If you have a sweet tooth, though, if you don't have a sweet tooth,
Then go with Dogfish Head's Pumpkin.
Yeah.
Which we've had twice on the air.
Exactly.
It's fantastic.
So cool. That's our beer for the day. So did you want to discuss anything not related to the topics that we're going to be
Right,
talking
we have
about?
lots going on here. No, I think we're good. Let's so we're gonna do things a little differently.
Yeah, we're
just
moving things
alluding-
around slightly. Yeah.
We are. I am going to act like a news anchorman. This is weird. I have printed notes. We've never done this before. Like, we're not a news show. This is not our normal deal. We usually have timeless topics, and we're non-sequential, and we're non-relevant to the times, except for our small segment at the beginning where we go through some news. So people can usually fast forward through that small segment and then go into our topic, which is mostly timeless. Tonight, the topic is the news, and I have this whole stack of printed notes. This is fantastic.
We've done
I'm
this
excited.
like one other time before where we just had to talk about things that were relevant to what was going on.
We've been a podcast
moment,
for 2
so,
years, and we've maybe done this once.
Yeah.
So bear with us because we are not professional news anchors. We have no training in this.
Yeah,
at all,
no, this
is going to be fantastic.
You didn't necessarily. I don't think you explained this exactly. The like how the structure to me before we started.
Yeah.
So I was like, so as you're explaining it now, I'm like, surprise Pikachu face over here. Like, wait, what? We're doing it how? So I'll just sort of trust your instincts on this and just kind of go with the flow.
Yep.
But anyways, before we get into all of that, we have 2 segments to get through. Especially considering we skipped them last week because there was a heavy news week. So let's get into it. We'll start with the first segment of our show, which is. Doing this podcast is our favorite thing. Doing this podcast is our favorite thing.
Were you trying to Frank Sinatra?
A little soul on that one. Well, you started off real quiet, and then
I thought it was DLC, and I was about to give you rap horns.
You always do.
I do. I don't understand why I do that.
Favorite things is the first segment of our show where we just sort of talk about what we're excited about, like what thing is our favorite thing this week that we are digging this week, and it could be something as deep and meaningful as a profound life change that one of us has gone through, or like a profound realization or epiphany we've come to, or it could be as simple and shallow, one might say, as hitting all the green lights on your way to work this morning.
Dude, I'll tell you what, right now, hitting all those green lights, I left a meeting and had to go to Detective Pikachu on a Thursday night at like 9:30.
You had
to. Because I bought the ticket,
Gotcha.
right? So
fair enough.
Yeah, the plan was I had to leave that meeting to go to the movie theater, and I was going to be a little late because I left too late. This isn't even my favorite thing. It's just funny because you brought this up. Every light was green, and I got there in record time. It has never happened again.
It is very magical. I've had very rare moments, but there have been moments where I've just been like, I hit every green light on the way to where I was trying to go today, and it just made my day.
Dude,
it really
amazing.
does. It is day making. Yeah. So that
was fun. I got it on time. I got into Detective Pikachu, and it was one of my favorite things on a previous episode. So go back and listen to my review. Whoa! Don't jump ahead of yourself.
I know. I'm gonna listen to myself. My favorite thing. I gotta talk about it because I'm
Lay it on me.
so excited about it. It's all I've been thinking about for like 3 days.
Are you sure? That's
Sunday.
all you've been thinking about?
It is one of the 2 things that I've been thinking about.
Sunday.
On Sunday. I wasn't able to join you because I had to run errands, but my wife joined you and our friends after church to go to a restaurant called Gourmelts. And the sandwich that she got, I told her to go ahead and order food for me and then bring it to where we were meeting up later.
Yeah.
So the sandwich she got me was so I was browsing through the menu and I was like, ooh, I could go for something spicy today. That buffalo chicken sandwich looks really good. And then I kept browsing and I was like, ooh, but they have a chicken and waffle sandwich. That sounds good too. I could go for something sweet. Literally right under the chicken and waffle sandwich was a blazing buffalo chicken and waffle sandwich. It was their chicken and waffle sandwich. So it was the bun was a waffle and then of course a chicken. They had the sweet syrup in there too, like syrup glaze or whatever, but they also had a ghost pepper cheddar.
What?
And their like buffalo bourbon sauce or whatever. Oh. And so it was sweet and spicy. It was amazing.
And you got it like room temperature too.
Yeah, and it was still amazing. And that's all I can think about is like, I want to go back to Gourmelts. I also didn't realize that. So I go down to Richmond the next day and I'm like, dudes, you guys should go to the local Gourmelts here and get that sandwich. And they were like, what are you talking about? And I was like, Gourmelts, like it's a chain, right? And they're like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. They Googled it and we Googled it and yeah, it is a local Fredericksburg restaurant. And I was like, I didn't realize this was local to Fredericksburg. I'm so happy that this is a local restaurant now. So I'm so much more stoked on Gourmelts. So if you're ever in Fredericksburg and you're not local and you want a good restaurant with an amazing sandwich,
they are really
you got to go to Gourmelts. Yeah, they have Old Bay tots too, which is just
their tots are awesome.
Good, yeah.
They also have like if you're in the Fredericksburg area, they have the pour like the taps for their beer are like you get to do it. It's self-serve pouring. I don't even know what words are. I say it all the time. You fire up the mics, you lose all your words. But yeah, they have a card. You put it in a little slot, and you pour yourself a beer. They have the whole refrigerator full of different style of glasses for you, so you can choose what kind of beer you want to go with the glass. Awesome. And I had a pumpkin ale there that was dipped in cinnamon and sugar. The glass was dipped in cinnamon sugar. And Aleworks pumpkin ale. Money.
Yeah. It's a great restaurant.
It's a great place.
It's like now rising because I never, when you think about like, oh, let's go out somewhere special, like you think about the local restaurants that are your favorites and it was not on my radar until now. Now it's at the top of my radar. Now I'm like, I want
there
special
every
treat.
week.
to Gore Melts.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's so
Fun.
good.
So, like, I've been there before, but it just never really. I guess I never realized. I guess I was, this might show some of my biases, but I'm like, I guess because I thought it was a chain restaurant, I was like, this is nothing special. I can get this anywhere. Nope, I can't get this anywhere. So now I'm like, ooh, it's a rarity.
Did
has
you know
increased.
they started as a food truck?
I did not know that.
Yep,
That's
they were
really
a food
cool.
truck, and they were going to all the local breweries, and then they became popular
Good for
enough
them.
to
they opened
make
up a store.
restaurant.
That's
Yep.
awesome. Yeah, there's a place in Harrisonburg like that too. So
Yeah.
cool. All right, sorry, Gore Melts.
That's fantastic.
Sandwich.
I'm with you.
I can't stop thinking about this sandwich. It's so good.
Let's go.
Do it right now. Sorry, the show's over. We're gonna go get some blazing chicken and waffles.
No news tonight. So my favorite thing, speaking of Gore Melts, was right after that, I got a notification on my phone while we were around the restaurant time that GameStop was having a sale. They always start their weekly ads every Sunday. And a game I had been tracking for quite some time, the Mega Man X Legacy Collection 1 and 2.
That's why you were playing that.
For PlayStation 4 and Switch and Xbox One was all on sale. And so I went and picked up a copy of it, and that is my favorite thing. I am currently playing through the Mega Man X Legacy Collection 1, which is Mega Man X 1, 2, 3, and 4, and I'm working through, 1, going through it. It's amazing because it was a gem of my childhood. If you recall a couple episodes back, Mega Man X3 was one of my favorite things because I picked up a copy of it for Super Nintendo, and it's a super hard to find, very rare game, extremely expensive. So that's part of this collection. Now I get to collect trophies while playing Mega Man X. And it's funny because you remember games from your childhood that seem bigger and harder and more difficult, and they're just more.
Final Fantasy VII, that's what that was for me.
Sure. Like, this game, I spent hours and days renting from video stores over and over and over again with my brother. Timon will listen to us, and he will, be jumping out of his car right now, yeah!
I hope not.
Well, not literally.
Timon, stay in your car.
Stay in your
Traffic
car.
is dangerous.
Maybe he's at work on his desk. But he him and I, we brought a small TV to our grandparents' house just to play Mega Man X. We played so much of this game for so long, and I completed the entire game except for beating the last level in one afternoon.
Oh, wow.
You just go, it's so short.
Yeah.
It's 8 short levels, 8 bosses, and you follow a walkthrough on the internet to get you all the collectibles, and you're good to go. Cool. It's super quick, and that's just one game. Yeah. So I'm loving it. It's like a complete jump back into my childhood. It's nostalgic. It's cool. The collection itself is a great package for PS4. There's all these extra things like galleries, music stuff, borders. They've preserved the aspect ratio and gave you a pixel perfect mode. So that's the PS4 buffer around Super Nintendo games. They did a really good job. Capcom did a really good job putting this collection together. It's polished. It's nice. Sometimes you get collections that are just here's your text menu. Pick a game and jump in. But this is more polished. It's got the extra things in there to make you want to play it. I can play it around my kids, so that's cool. That's kind of why you saw me playing it, because the only time I've had to play games is my son's around, and he can sit on the couch next to me and watch. He's obsessed with robots, Transformers,
as opposed to
stuff.
seeing someone literally get disillusioned by a rocket launcher and
right. And I'm dying to play Resident Evil 2, the remake, because I got it for my birthday, and I haven't played it yet because I've been holding off.
It's October. I should fire that up.
Right, yeah, and it's cold outside now finally, and I want to play it so bad, but I can't play that around my son. So Mega Man X Collection is kind of filling that void for me. And
gotcha.
It's fantastic.
Sweet.
And I'm getting my
Thanks for kicking
trophies. You're welcome. We're playing footies. That's what's happening right now.
That's what it is, footies.
Yeah. So that's my favorite thing.
Sweet, awesome. Favorite things is over.
We're not as far into this episode as I thought.
No, of course not, because
we
we're skipping the news.
Yeah, you're right.
All right. So next segment is DLC.
Downloadable content.
DLC is a segment where we have a sub-discussion, a mini-discussion, a game, if you will, a little extra bit of content, that conversation you normally wouldn't have around video games. All right. So I've got 2 scenarios for you.
Ooh.
This is kind of tied in with one of our topics that we're talking about tonight. So this might set the stage a little bit for people.
What may I be?
You are a PR manager.
Yup.
And you've been hired by
I have a pen.
2 different entities here.
Yeah.
And to spin their stories in a way that is
yes.
adequate for the public.
This is getting great.
So the first one that you have to spin, you are a PR representative that's been hired by Andrew Ryan, the founder of Rapture, which is the
the underwater
city,
utopia,
the underwater libertarian
society.
utopia
Yep.
of BioShock, and
unbeholden to any government in the world.
Exactly. You have to now spin. This is, I don't know, I guess let's just say X amount of years after the events of BioShock 2. You now have to spin the event. You have to spin Rapture. Everything that happened in Rapture. Not everything, but like you have to get a positive spin on the events of the games, the disaster that happened in Rapture, because, I don't know, Andrew Ryan's estate wants to start another one, and you have to explain why it's a good idea to build Rapture 2.0.
You have to lay some groundwork for me.
Okay.
So Andrew Ryan's estate, meaning Andrew Ryan's gone, this is the inheritors, they're
the estate has now hired you, so the estate
that I'm
of Andrew
lobbying
Ryan.
for funding from venture capitalists to start this thing?
Yeah, we'll say venture capitalists, but you have to explain why it's a good idea because of the disaster that happened. So your job is to spin the disaster of Rapture.
So the disaster was everyone's self-indulgence and lack of government or God to reign or restrict them is gone, right? So they just completely went crazy and decided to do all these scientific experimentations and inject themselves with gene manipulation to give themselves powers to do electricity and like fire and stuff.
Yeah.
And they all went nuts because they don't know how to do gene manipulation, and they drove themselves insane. Plus the idea of like no inhibitors on your indulgence kind of lead yourself down. All right, so that's kind of the disaster.
That's the disaster that happened, yeah.
Right. I was just laying that out in case someone hadn't played BioShock or has no idea what we're talking about.
So spoilers, I guess.
So,
but
it's fine, because they don't know the twist.
Yeah.
Right. All right, we're going to leave that alone.
Sure, yeah.
Go play the game.
The rest of the world doesn't have to know.
That's right.
The specifics. They just have to know the general. So
what had
How do you
happened?
spin this?
How do I spin this?
How do you spin
what
this?
This was?
Why was this a good thing, or why was this a misunderstood thing?
A self-contained, non-militaristic society that was a giant experiment to figure out the nature of humanity.
Sure.
What we have learned is enough to make a new society that does the same thing, but we can control it now.
Yeah, sort of like I'm getting some Jurassic World vibes here.
Right.
Like, the first time, of course, it didn't work.
Right.
It was just an experiment, but, we've learned our lesson. We can totally do this again, but better.
Right.
I can get you.
We understand.
What are some of the safeguards that you're going to promise the...
So the limitations on supplies to this society for which they can do their gene manipulation, so they can't alter their genetic makeup at all. Let's let that happen. Also, monitoring with modern technology. So they will have
Ooh, it doesn't
cameras.
quite sound so much like a libertarian utopia.
They don't
but a
know
bit of
that. And to the people who are going to fund this thing,
sure, I see.
The people who live there aren't going to know that. So this is going to be a very Truman Show situation.
It's a very, very...
Truman Show situation. So everyone, instead of one person not knowing what's going on and having an entire fake society built around them, they will all go and have a controlled Westworldian kind of society built around them. And we will be the overarching eyes and, hands into the situation, which we need now. So buy me, send me money, and we will do this. How it gets you money is Twitch streaming.
All right,
imagine the streaming potential.
Oh, I got you. All right,
we can watch these folks in a we're a family-friendly podcast, so we will watch the lives of these people
in a tasteful way.
How will they work their lives out with their kids and their work? And
you've pleased the Andrew Ryan estate, and you're now a very successful PR manager.
Yes.
So you've now been approached by Black Mesa.
Ooh.
And they want you to spin the disaster.
Okay.
That was
Black Mesa's
Half-Life.
And there were interdimensional experimentations happening with which aliens came through.
Spin me, buddy.
And obliterated. So there were no aliens. And what you suspect to be interdimensional travel or even time travel were completely falsified, and the documents do not indicate proof of such events to happen.
Okay, and Gordon Freeman is just a
Freeman is a victim and a crazy individual who
just conspiracy theorist. Yep. Yeah, I got you.
And he was evicted from his employment. Mm-hmm. He was fined. and now he's disappeared. So as far as we know, he's a crazy individual who's mentally unstable, is disappeared from the world, and there were never everything you've heard.
So
was
what happened? Was it
theorists.
just like an explosion, like a gas tank explosion?
He sabotaged multiple experiments in very sensitive laboratories with highly volatile experimental materials that resulted in lots of explosions and deaths and lives. Those people and families have been well compensated.
Nice.
So Black Mesa is fine.
Yeah, Black Mesa is fine. Everything's fine.
Everything's great.
I like this. You did a good job. There was some good PR spins there.
I tried.
It's funny because when I wrote it down, I actually intended Aperture.
Ooh.
I wanted you to do Aperture, and I completely forgot that. I mixed up the two, and I was like, but hey, guess what? Black Mesa works just fine.
You see, if I was the PR manager for Aperture,
I
would
boom,
say...
here you go. Bonus. You guys get a bonus
episode.
Get a little bonus PR spin.
The cake that we provided to the science person that was involved in the experiments by our AI, our machine learning experimentation AI machine, was guiding an individual through a maze. That individual's ability to not resist the cake accidentally ingested psychedelics and mental instability poison, and so they went mad.
So by going beyond the bonds of the experiment,
right? They
encountered toxic chemicals they weren't supposed to because it was outside the bounds of the experiment, and they hallucinated.
They were told
the rest
multiple
of the
times
thing.
the cake was a lie. Do not enjoy it. Do not eat it. But they did anyway, and because of that, they fell victim to their own. It had drugs in it that weren't meant for human consumption.
And hallucinated everything else that happened.
There was a gun that did create portals, and orange and blue.
And hey, our product will be coming out in a few years once we've worked out the kinks.
Much like you shouldn't drive a car inebriated, this person operated an experimental technology that created portals under the influence of highly intoxicating drugs inside of a cake, which they were told repeatedly not to eat.
Man, you should totally. Yeah, I mean, I'm seeing Ganondorf lining up, some Bowser Incorporated.
How long do we got?
Termite's PR spin. That was our DLC. Let us know what you thought of his PR spins. Are you convinced? Do you feel a little bit more sympathetic for the Andrew Ryan estate and Black Mesa? Let us know how you think he did.
Yeah.
Let us know if there's any holes in his arguments.
Swiss cheese, baby. Let's go.
But yeah, that was DLC. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed that. Well improv. All right, cool. All right, so
what's our topic?
Let's break it down. Two really big events happened in the news today.
Hey guys, Penguin here. So normally we don't interject with notes like this, but the circumstances of this week's episode were a little different. We were going to talk about two news issues, and we actually did talk about two news issues. We decided that the immediacy of one of these issues and how important and relevant it was meant that we should spin it off and do a bonus episode. So we actually already released that. You can go back and listen to it. It's 80-bit bonus episode, and that should be live. It should be the episode right before this one in the stream. So go check that out. It has to do with the Blizzard and Hong Kong stuff. So I was unable, normally in circumstances like this, I'm able to kind of clean things up through editing and make it so that you would have never heard mention of it. But because of the way that we'll talk in the next section, it was just too hard to try to remove all of it out. So I'm giving you a heads up here that we mentioned the Hong Kong stuff in the next few minutes, but we ended up taking that and moving it to another episode. So you can still check that out. You can still hear that conversation, but we mostly just talk about the PS5 here. I'll put another reminder at the end of this episode so that you guys will know, and so that hopefully it's less confusing.
Two really big events happened in the news today. One's very positive.
Yes.
One's very negative.
Very negative, exactly.
Do you like your bad news first or your good news first?
I don't necessarily care what I like, but I would like to give the good news first.
You want to end on the bad note.
I want to end on the more
controversial note.
One of these news stories is bringing up some very higher issues that I think is really important for us to discuss. That's why I want to end on the more negative stories, because it's tied to higher ideas.
The two stories we have today.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about the PlayStation 5.
Yep. PlayStation 5 was officially announced.
Say that because that's the official name. That came out today, and we're in lots more details.
Because nobody was surprised.
I know, right? Yeah, it's hilarious.
I saw an Onion article that was like, Microsoft heads off. Microsoft heads off PlayStation by announcing their PlayStation 6 coming in 2020 or something like that.
That's funny. That's really good.
Yeah.
And then the heavier news article is Blizzard's firing of a esports Hearthstone champion, as well as his two casters, because of statements aligning themselves with Hong Kong in their protest against mainland China.
Yes.
And so that's the heavier one.
If you're sitting there like, what?
Yeah.
We'll get into it because it's way more interesting than it just sounds on the surface.
Get your Sony hat. This is fun, technological speculation. This is going to be great. There was a lot of details dropped on the PlayStation 5
Putting the hat on.
today. I want to read some quotes. We're going to dig into some things. I'm going to go a little out of order. So there was a post on a random Tuesday. PlayStation announced their PlayStation 5.
Available holiday 2020.
And they released a release date, a name, and some details about the controller.
Not price yet, though, right?
No price yet. And not even a specific date. Just holiday 2020, and it's actually called the PlayStation 5. And then Wired.com got the exclusive on the details of things. So I'm going to kind of start with the PlayStation blog post. Then jump into Kotaku, and then come back to PlayStation Blog. I got this format. I kind of took it from Kind of Funny Games Daily. It was the format he took. Greg Miller did that there, and I will quote everyone who I'm quoting when I do. So, here we go. And you can feel free to interrupt with your thoughts and your interjections as we go, because there's some details here. So, Jim Ryan is the CEO of Sony Interactive Entertainment. He says on the PlayStation Blog post, "Today, I am proud to share that our next generation console will be called PlayStation 5, and we will be launching in time for holiday 2020. Great. We have a name and a date. No one saw that coming.
Right. Okay. Yeah. PS5. They were going to take 4 generations of a naming convention and suddenly change it. No, not likely.
Didn't happen. Right. That's kind of cool.
Well, I like how they said in the blog post, so like, nobody's surprised by this, but it's called the PlayStation 5.
I'm not going to quote the entire... I'm not reading these entire articles. I'm grabbing tidbits out of...
I guess the not surprise there is that they're... like it's more notable that they aren't changing up the name scheme, I guess.
Right.
So,
that's
cool. Fair, I suppose.
All right. These updates may not be a huge surprise, but we wanted to confirm them for our PlayStation fans as we start to reveal the additional details about our vision for the next generation. Wired magazine covered these updates and more in a story that posted this morning. The, quote, more refers to something I'm quite excited about. Remember, this is Jim Ryan's words. A preview of the new controller that will ship with PlayStation 5. One of our goals with the next generation is to deepen the feeling of immersion when you play games, and we had the opportunity with our new controller to reimagine how the sense of touch can add to that immersion. While there's much more to share about PlayStation 5 in the year ahead, we have plenty of blockbuster experiences coming your way on PlayStation 4, including Death Stranding, The Last of Us Part 2, and Ghost of Tsushima.
That's an interesting.
Bingo!
That's an interesting little tidbit right there. Is that Ghost of Tsushima is not a PS5 exclusive.
Yep.
It may still be on the PS5 as a dual launch, but it's definitely still a PS4. That's awesome. Which also implies that it'll be out before the PS5.
Yeah,
so
it
sometime
does.
next year.
Exactly.
In 2020.
Yeah, it's been previously proven by another Wired article from Mark Cerny, like back when they announced some previous information about PlayStation 5, that it's all backwards compatible. Everything PS5 is PS4 playable. So Ghost of Tsushima. There you go.
Yeah.
It's great. I'd like to thank all PlayStation fans for continuing the journey with us as we embark on the future of games. So, now, any other thoughts about that?
Haptics.
We're about
to
talk
about haptics.
Okay, all right. So, since you want to talk about haptics, if that's what gets your jellies going.
It's getting jelly.
All right.
It's all kinds of jelly going.
Peter Rubin reports from Wired. So this is the link that Jim Ryan pointed us to. Before we get into haptics, we're going to talk about one other thing. The PlayStation 5 will use a 100 gigabyte optical discs inserted into an optical drive that doubles as a 4K Blu-ray player.
So, still discs are what the
Correct.
format's...
So that confirms, 1, physical media is still relevant. There's a disc drive. And 2, finally, a PlayStation console for the first time ever will do 4K Blu-rays.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's new because the Xbox One S, which is not the X. There's Xbox One X.
I got you. I know
the S is the cheaper version.
Sure.
Plays 4K Blu-rays.
Oh, interesting.
But the PS4 Pro doesn't.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's kind of annoying. But anyway, so we know that the PlayStation 5 now has 4K Blu-rays. However, game installation, which is mandatory given the speed difference between the solid-state drive and the optical drive, will be a bit different than the PS4. This time around, aided in part by the simplified game data possible with the solid-state drive, Sony is changing its approach to storage, making for a more configurable installation and removal process. Rather than treating games like a big block of data, Cerny says, we're allowing finer-grained access to the data. That could mean the ability to install just the game's multiplayer campaign, leaving the single-player campaign for another time, or just installing the whole thing and then deleting the single-player campaign once you finished it. Okay, so what this meant, there are also... I'm not going to... This is me talking.
Okay, yeah, you're winging it.
There are UI improvements, which will allow access to functions of the multiplayer and single-player aspects of a video game without actually booting the game. And it sounds confusing at first, but think about this. The UI in PlayStation 4 is kind of stale.
Mm-hmm.
When you see gamers like you're playing Borderlands 3, you're a level 20 flak playing the campaign. That's all it says. But that's all I have access to. If I want to play with you, I have to boot the game, and then jump into your game.
Yeah.
And then see where you're at exactly, specifically. What this solid-state drive implication means, what I just read, is that there will be multiplayer servers shown or single-player campaign options shown on the UI of the system without actually booting the game. So the developers have the ability to show to the UI aspects of their game without booting the game. And then you can just jump straight into exactly what you want, right?
Yeah.
Instead of like games having a main menu, like you start up a game, you see a title screen, you see some credits or whatever, and then you get to the main menu.
That can be built into the UI. The main menu essentially is built. So if I want to jump right into the games, let's say I want to go into the options first before I do anything else in the game.
Yep.
I could go like, sweet, I've inserted the disc, and immediately like I can enter into the options and be like, I'm gonna now adjust all the things I want before the game even starts,
right,
before I see anything about the game. That's awesome.
To circumvent all the loading and the waiting and all that stuff. So that's fantastic. That's amazing, right?
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Haptics. I want to talk about haptics.
We're getting there.
Are we at there yet?
Calm down.
I want to talk about haptics.
I want to talk about the UI again real quick before I'm done. There's a quote from Laura Miele. She is...
Got a wonderful name.
It's a great name.
Meow.
Yeah. Chief Studio Officer for EA. EA opinions aside. I could really be specific and talk about experimenting with ambient occlusion techniques or the examination of ray trace shadows. More generally, we're seeing the GPU be able to power machine learning for all sorts of really interesting advancements in the gameplay and other tools. Now we have machine learning is happening. That's crazy, right? That's new technology. Above all, Miele adds, it's the speed of everything that will define the next crop of consoles. We're stepping into the generation of immediacy. In mobile games, we expect a game to download in moments and to be just a few taps from jumping right in. Now we're able to tackle that in a big way.
That's awesome. That's yeah, it sounds like, again, we've talked about the graphics plateau and how there's only so much more you can go with that.
Exactly.
So seeing that they're actually saying, okay, cool, well, let's tackle some of these other things that have been plaguing the industry forever, like speed. It's kind of cool. That's exciting.
And so, all these ideas about the UI, and so I'm thinking of like, have you ever tried to join a server like Battlefield or Call of Duty? Have you ever seen like this game has like 16 versus 16, and it's progressed 4 minutes into the game, and you want to play it? Like those things will go straight to the UI, so you don't have to boot. You don't have to boot the game. Go into the multiplayer menu. Go to the server list. Apparently, some PC games already kind of do this with some of the more advanced launchers. I don't know how that works. I'm not a PC gamer.
I don't know enough about it either, yep.
But it sounds really, really exciting to just be like, I'm going to have a digital download of, say, the next Call of Duty, and you're playing it, which you would never do that, but you're there, and you're around, and I can just like see a list of servers, including yours, and just jump to that server.
That's awesome.
And then the game boots, and I'm in that server right now.
Yeah, that's awesome.
To circumvent all the other crap.
That's exciting.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
I'm pumped. All right, you want to talk about the controller?
Haptics, yeah.
Haptics.
Okay, so I can see this... I can see this going one of two ways.
What's up?
Either it is a revolutionary
kind of
movement towards haptic feedback in our games, or it's just going to be a gimmick that just no one does anything with. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the way they describe it is like, oh, if you're, it's more than just a rumble like feedback.
Yeah.
Because that's what controller technology is now. Is an explosion happens near me, and my controller goes, and that's it. That's all it is. And Nintendo supposedly with the Switch has their HD Rumble, which is probably closer to what PlayStation is talking about with the haptic feedback, where the only game that really does anything with it is the 1-2 Switch, and I haven't played that, so I can't really speak from experience there.
Apparently, you can feel the ice in the cup.
Yeah, exactly. But so what PlayStation is describing though is that with their controller for the PS5, you'll be able to go through a field of wheat or grass, and you'll be able to actually like feel that sensation.
Supposedly.
Supposedly. So yeah, I can see that going, like I said, one of two ways. Either, whoa, this is amazing, I can actually feel the grass. Or, okay, it's just kind of tickling my joysticks. That's
I have thoughts.
great and fine, I guess. The only thing that was interesting to me, the only thing that I thought had any promise was the idea of programmable resistance on the triggers, which is kind of cool.
Yes, they're going to do that too.
I'm going to just talk about it now because they described it. Basically they described how the triggers, you'll be able to like program different levels of resistance. So if you want like a hair trigger on a gun, it'll be very loose. The actual trigger, or the physical button will feel very loose. So it will give you less resistance versus if you want to get that feeling of like maybe the character's opening a door and you have them pull the triggers to do that, then they can actually really like give you resistance. So that could be a really interesting
here's
feedback.
The term they use. And you say haptic feedback, you want the haptics, and you keep using the word haptics like it's funny. Get this term is amazing. Highly programmable voice coil activators located in the left and right grips of the controllers. Highly programmable voice coil actuators. That's what they are.
Gosh.
That's
actuators. That's a wonderful
the
word.
rumble in the controller, right? That's hilarious. But you're right. So supposedly, if you want to pull an arrow back or make a machine gun feel different from a shotgun, these are quotes from the article. The adaptive triggers offer varied levels of resistance to make shooting these things differently. So that's also relevant in racing games because you have braking and gas.
Yeah.
When you lose traction in a race car, your gas pedal can just hit the floor because the wheels are just going like you're doing a burnout, right? You just none at all. So that can happen now in the controller.
In the game, so they can
really
simulate that better. Yeah, it's more that's more interesting to me than the actual what they're trying to describe with like sensations in the vibrations of the controller. So that'll be hit or miss. Again, it could be really good. It could be a huge step forward in the way that we, perceive of haptic technology, but I don't quite think we're there yet. So, haptic, we've talked about before how haptic feedback is super important for VR, and as VR progresses and gets better and better, haptic feedback is going to be a huge part of that.
It is.
We'll see if this is, this iteration of it in the PlayStation controller is actually going to be, if it'll be more on the line of everything's a spectrum. Is it truly innovative, or is it just kind of gimmicky? You know what I mean?
This is where the cross of that happens, because the current Xbox One controller now, they boasted having feedback in the joysticks and the triggers. And I've noticed that with Forza, a racing game, that, again, like your car loses grip or you run off road or not, you feel that in the controller in different ways than the DualShock 4, which is very static. So Xbox or Microsoft has already experimented with these technologies, and it seems like Sony's making a catch-up move to both Nintendo and Microsoft, as well as trying to push the technology forward. And so I want to read this quote because this is interesting. Product manager Toshi Akoi, I don't even know how to say it, Toshi Akoi, says the controller team has been working on the haptic feedback since the DualShock 4 was in development. They even could have included it in the PS4 Pro, a mid-cycle refresh, though doing so would have created a split experience for gamers. So the feature suite was held for the next generation. There are some other small improvements over the DualShock 4. The next-gen controller uses USB Type-C connector for charging, and you can play through the cable as well. Its larger capacity battery and haptics motors make the new controller a bit heavier than the DualShock 4, but Aoki says it will still come a bit lighter than the current Xbox controller with batteries in it.
It has promise in regards to if they can get really granular with the vibration spots on the controller. It opens up a ton of possibilities, such as like they can cue you which buttons to, in the tutorials and stuff like that. They could cue you what button to press through vibration and feedback alone. That could be really interesting, especially considering you could enable that as an option in games. Especially considering people who have multiple consoles like you and me, who sometimes get discombobulated when they switch controllers abruptly and are like, wait, which one's X?
Right.
Because X is on a different location on each controller. So being able to be like, hey, by the way, X is this one, just through like some sensation. They could cue you, things like polygraph. Polygraph, is that what the word? No, that's a lie detector. A telegraph. They could telegraph things using vibrations as well. So if they, if your character if something's firing at your character and you're able to hit a button to counter that, if you time it right, they could help telegraph that through the actual sensation as well, as opposed to just the visuals alone. So it opens up whole new possibilities in regards to, control and response and reaction, input and output, of the controller. there's way more possibility in that regard, which I think is promising if they get it right and if it's
there's
what they describe.
3 things happening in the controller. This actuator, which is the rumble. There's trigger resistance, and then the third thing is joystick thumbstick response, like frequency response. So apparently in this demo that I don't even know who has done this. I guess the writer from Wired. So what I said his name was earlier, and I can't remember. Peter Rubin, in his experience with the demonstration he had, he said sand felt slow and sloggy. Mud also felt slow and sloggy. On ice, high-frequency response made the thumbsticks feel really like my character was gliding. Jumping into a pool, I got a sense of resistance of the water. On a wooden bridge, a bouncy sensation. So it's joysticks, rumble, and triggers. No controller has done that yet. So this is new. This is innovative.
It's definitely a step forward, for sure. Yeah.
But you're right about, you mentioned VR, and I feel like that's all this is. Like, everything about what they're saying here with the DualShock 5 is just a kind of mask in saying they're throwing up the front of, we're giving you a new controller, we've innovated and we're pushing a new direction because, like you said earlier, graphics can't make everything.
Yeah.
We've seen the smallest jumping graphics between the PS3, Xbox 360, and the PS4 and like Xbox One generation is the tiniest jumping graphics because you go back to Nintendo to Super Nintendo, from Super Nintendo to N64, crazy jumps, crazy stuff. So where are we at? Immersion. Right? That's the last thing. But we're also pushing VR. They've done everything except announce a PSVR 2.
Yeah.
Like, this is everything about all of the ray tracing and the graphics processors and the GPUs.
And machine learning. All that is. It's all, it's, for people, on the surface, it's just like, oh, these are technologies that make the games look and feel better. The undercurrent is these are the technologies that will make VR successful.
Exactly.
So by demonstrating how they're investing in those technologies, they are making a unspoken pact, if you will, with the consumer that, hey, we are investing in technologies that are supportive for what you really want, which is a positive, revolutionary VR experience. I definitely see that totally. Let's wrap.
We're down to
I know. I got you. That's what I'm saying. Let's roll through these.
We are. So the last bit of the quote from the Wired article, while a number of studios have already had their hands on the PS5 dev kits, the controller prototypes began rolling out much more recently, and no one is ready to name specific titles they're developing for PlayStation 5. However, Marco Thrush of Blue Point Games, the company behind the most recent remake of Shadow of the Colossus, quotes, "We're working on a big one right now. I'll let you figure out the rest." And his quote was...
big one?
It is.
But colossal one, maybe?
You can cross-reference today's quote with a previous quote saying that they are working on, indeed, a remake. This is not a new IP. This is a remake. And it is huge. It's bigger than Shadow of the Colossus. We don't... Up to speculation to figure out what that is. But Blue Point Games also did the Nathan Drake collection. All the Uncharted remakes. Yeah. They're just a remaster factory. They're amazing. They were not involved in Spyro or Crash, consequently, but they are a remake factory. So it's up to your speculation as to what you think that might be. We have no idea. There's no confirmation of that. So the last thing, Thrush says from Blue Point Games, that doesn't mean you're not exploring. The solid state has me really excited. Thrush says, you don't need to do gameplay hacks anymore to artificially slow players down, lock them behind doors, anything like that. Back in the cartridge days, games used to load instantly. We're kind of going back to what consoles used to be. That's awesome. That's exciting to me. That's awesome. I'm super pumped about what they're like. Yes, you put a game in and you turn it on and it plays now, right? Mm-hmm. I'm a retro gamer aficionado. I have tons of retro stuff here. Cartridges out the wazoo. I love that aspect of what this guy, Marco Thrush, president of Blue Point Games, is saying about the future of the PlayStation 5. Yeah. And we've seen that cross-referenced with the Spider-Man demo. They had the PS4 version of Spider-Man was running on a PS5 dev kit, and the loading time was 0.8 seconds. From a fast travel.
Yeah, so that's awesome.
They're doing some crazy proprietary things.
I hope they can keep that up. I mean, it sounds promising, but like I hope that when we get, 7 years into the PlayStation 5 and we're standing at 2027, looking forward to the next generation of consoles that will be inevitably coming out, I hope we can still say the latest games that have come out for the game still load at that rate. Like, I hope that they haven't made such a huge jump in, they haven't gotten so bloated that we go back to long load times because the solid state drive can't keep up. You know what I mean? Like, that's just my hope, is that that is the new definitive normal for console gaming.
Right.
So let's transition. But before we transition, let's break down and say, cool, awesome, PlayStation 5, a lot of cool, exciting things.
Yeah.
So my question for you is, are you going to get it holiday 2020?
That's the thing.
That's the question. Yeah, it is. That's the question, because there's more context
to it.
Yeah, there's way more context. And my thought is, this is one of my thoughts, and this is just normal. This isn't necessarily exclusive to this console generation. This is every console generation. Yeah. The thing is backwards compatible, right?
Which we already know is.
We already know it's a thing. So, on the one hand, you won't be lacking for games to play on the PlayStation 5 because you can just take your whole library and play it. So that's one of the big problems with new consoles is there's no games to play on it. You know, if they're not backwards compatible, there's no games to play on it. First thing. Right. I mean, we had that with the Switch. Even okay, the Switch came out, it's great. We have Breath of the Wild, but we burned through that in a week, and now what do we play on it? So you won't have that problem with the PlayStation 5. But on the other hand, they will probably be releasing a lot of those titles as dual releases for the first year or so. There may be a handful of exclusive titles, but that then begs the question, well, if most of the titles I still want to get are dual launches I can get on the PlayStation 4, then I'm not in any rush to get a PlayStation 5. Unless the exclusive titles are amazing, but, I don't know if Sony's going to do that, take that risk with trying to... consoles tend to sell better a year after they've come out than, so that install base. So it's a timing issue. Is like, when are there going to be enough PlayStation 5 games that won't run on my PlayStation 4 to make it worth getting? Mm-hmm. But also, there's also that idea of like, well, let the first manufacturing wave get sold off because there's almost always red rings of death and other kinds of issues on that first wave of
so you get
hardware.
a benefit of waiting.
So you get the benefit of waiting. So for one, I think I'm going to wait. I'll probably sell my PlayStation 4 to subsidize my PlayStation 5 purchase.
Which would be a no-brainer almost.
Because the backwards compatibility.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I know
there's
that
a whole bunch of stuff here. So one is the exclusive. So Blue Point game Mark Thrush, he hinted at gameplay design implications for exclusivity. So those games, whatever he's working on, whatever that team is working on, is going to be a PlayStation 5 exclusive, no doubt.
Yeah.
There's no, he quote said, no gameplay gimmicks to like gate the player or pad it to slow them down, etc. So that's going to be a PS5 exclusive.
Yeah.
We also know that Guerrilla Games, who made Horizon Zero Dawn, is making a Horizon Zero Dawn sequel.
Yep.
It's almost everything but confirmed. There was a designer or a developer on the team that said, oh, wait till you see the next thing they're making. Whoops, I should have said that. Like, that was a thing that happened. It was tweeted about forever ago. You can go track that down. But, so we're assuming we're going to get a Horizon Zero Dawn 2.
Oh, can you imagine if they take cues from Breath of the Wild and make it like you can climb any surface.
Yes. And plus the haptics and the feelings and all the control. All right, so if those are PS5 exclusives, right?
Please don't be.
That's what you need a good like launch push to get the system off the ground. But I'm assuming those are going to be exclusives. So here's the thing: the third parties, the ones that are not the PlayStation exclusives, those are the ones that are going to want to, in their favor, make the cross-gen games. Mm-hmm. So that's going to be the Call of Duty, the Madden, the Division, whatever. Like Ubisoft comes out, maybe Assassin's Creed. Those are going to be the ones that
Borderlands recent enough that they could do
maybe an up-res for like so they'll be enhanced for PS5 but come out for PS4, Xbox One, and so those games will satiate you as a PS4 Pro owner.
Yeah.
What games will I be missing out on are only going to be the exclusives for PS5.
Yeah, so that's the big question.
So that's
that
like,
we'll see.
What are those exclusives? Do I need them when they come
out?
But
even Sony's proprietary titles like The Last of Us 2 will only be coming out, 8 months before the launch.
Yeah.
So
this happened in the
no
PS3
doubt.
era with Last of Us Part 1, the first game.
Yeah.
It came out right before the PS4
They've got 3 games coming out in that window, window of less than a year.
Mm-hmm.
Death Stranding,
Last of Us,
and Ghost of Tsushima. So there's they would be remiss if they aren't working on those games for PlayStation 5.
They're going to be enhanced by. That's probably what's going to happen, because the jump from PS3, which was an entirely different architecture, they had to completely remaster and then re-release release as a different SKU, a different UPC. The Last of Us Part 1 was a PS3 exclusive. They had to re-release that on PS4. We're past that now. This is the first time the console generations have ever been the way that they are, and a unified architecture, that's the x86, is now when the PS5 comes out, Last of Us Part 2 is going to work on the PS5.
Right.
All they got to do is patch it. Boom. You got 8K textures. You got 60 frames per second. It's going to just run better.
Yeah.
With the same disc you already bought on the PS4. That was never the case in the past. So this is entirely new. It's going to be awesome. I'm extremely excited about
So, back to my question.
Yes.
Are you going to get it? Are you do buy it holiday 2020?
On the stuff I don't know, and that is the cost and the exclusive titles.
I'm with you, 100%.
If the cost is too high and the exclusives aren't enough, no. I'm going to stay with my PS4 Pro, and I'm going to buy those third-party games. All of the games that are not the PS5 exclusive games, which will be the most of, I'll buy them on my PS4 Pro, and then they will be PS5 enhanced later, not having to rebuy the games.
Yep.
That's the kicker. So 3 things. Price of the console, exclusives of the console, and do I have to rebuy the games?
Yeah.
I doubt I will.
I don't think you will. Yeah, but
cool. So,
All right, awesome.
Yeah. That's PlayStation, baby.
PlayStation, okay.
Hey guys, that was our discussion on the PlayStation 5. This is Penguin again, kind of recording this after the fact. That, if you were getting this far and thought, oh, isn't there more that they have to discuss? Because they said they were going to be talking about 2 issues tonight. As I had mentioned before, we had ended up taking our conversation about Hong Kong and Blizzard and spinning that off into a bonus episode. So please go back and listen to that and enjoy that episode if you still want to hear our thoughts on that. And you may have already listened to it. So if you already have, great. I'm glad you enjoyed it and glad you listened to it. But we wanted to go ahead and keep those 2 issues kind of separated and give more priority to the Blizzard one because it was happening immediately. So we kind of took it out of this episode, stuck it in another episode, and kept this one to just talk about the PS5. So go ahead and check that out. And if you liked this episode and want to give us feedback about your thoughts on the PlayStation 5 and the features that we talked about, you can find us on our social media accounts at 80-Bit Podsmash. You can find us on Facebook, Reddit, Twitter, Instagram, all at 80-Bit Podsmash. You can find us on our Discord server, which there should be a link in this episode, in the notes of this episode, on any platform that you're listening to it. And if you want to just go to our landing website, you can find links to Twitter, Google Play, and iTunes, and pretty much any podcast app that's out there. We are on it, and you can find links to that at our landing page, which is 80bitpodsmash.com. So next week next Monday, we will be talking about innovation versus preservation, also known as when should games innovate. So we'll check you out and see you next week.